So basically the next question we're going to be covering is Achilles and foot pain at the end of hikes. So the question here was, I'm getting Achilles and foot pain towards the end of my longer training hikes. Anything I can do to help with this? And the context of this question was this particular hiker is training up to a particular adventure. And they were leading up to a particular thing. I think it's about 10 weeks time or something. And they were realizing in the kind of last hour or so of their hikes, there was a little bit of discomfort in the Achilles, a little bit of discomfort in the feet. And they're wondering, what can we do? And this is a really, really common issue in the hiking community, because foot pain, ankle pain, Achilles pain, really, really, really common in the hiking community. So many people have it purely for the fact that it's a foot-based sport. We are walking on our feet a lot of the time. We're on rough terrain. Sometimes we don't wear great footwear. We got weight on our back. All of these things add to this fact that it can sometimes be a little bit tricky. Now, it is really, really definitely not uncommon for these types of things to flare up on the trail, because if we just do a little bit too much too soon, that's often going to lead to a flare-up. But unusually in a situation, if you're not training for anything, you can kind of say, you know what, I'm just going to reduce the distance of my hikes for a little while, give it a bit of time to recover, and then slowly build things up. However, if you are training out for a particular hike, and you've got a particular date that's coming up, and you're like, you know, in 10 weeks time, I need to be ready for this type of thing, then we do need to play a bit of a balancing act. Because we're in this situation where if you have something you need to be ready for, you do still need to keep on increasing your training hikes in one way or another. You may not have the luxury of having 2 or 3 weeks of doing nothing, or 2 or 3 weeks of completely pulling things back, or whatever it may be. We probably do still need to keep you moving forward in one way or another, because, you know, the worst thing we could kind of do is actually rest and recover and do all the rest that you need to get you into the spot. But then we end up being completely underprepared for your actual adventure. And then you go out on your adventure, and maybe it's a multi-day adventure, you get to day 2 or day 3 and you can't even walk. And then it turns into a situation where, can I get off the trail? Is it safe? Am I holding people back? Am I just having a miserable time? Whatever it may be. So we want to make sure our preparations still keep top of mind. But obviously we need to balance that out with the fact that we want to make sure we're not aggravating things too much. We don't want to be doing this so much that things keep on getting worse and things keep on getting a bit uncomfortable. You know, that is a hard balance to strike, and that's probably why I have a job doing what I do, because we help so many hikers try to balance this out, because it can be a little bit tricky when you're trying to figure it out for yourself. So realistically, when it comes down to a solution for this, I want to talk you through a few things. Now, we're not going to go too much into prevention, in the sense that I would be here for a long time talking about prevention of foot pain, or talking about prevention of Achilles pain. You know, that's a massive topic in itself. But when we are looking at prevention and making sure this stuff just doesn't happen in the first place, main things to keep on top of: load management. Load management purely means how much force, how much pressure, how much load is going through your feet and your Achilles. And that is the number one risk factor when it comes to pain. And pain on the trail. And realistically, if you are taking big jumps up in your hiking distance and you're not giving your body the time to sort of slowly ease into things, or if you're having big breaks and you hike 1 week, then you have 3 or 4 weeks off, and then all of a sudden you're hiking huge amount of distances again, that can be a little bit tricky. So load management, really, really, really important. Strengthening for your Achilles, strengthening for the feet, really, 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 really important. This stuff does take a while to kick into effect. It does take a while to put into action, but it is very, very, very valuable. And also getting a diagnosis. Obviously, you know, Achilles, foot pain, go see a physio, go see a podiatrist, get them actually to poke around so you know what's going on, so you have some clear guidelines around your exercise and they can actually help you out. But with that being said, prevention out of the way. If you're in this situation, the context of this question was like, hey, I've already seen a physio, I'm already doing all of this stuff, and right now I'm getting this on the hikes, what can I do? So let's talk through a few really, really simple things. Number one, first and foremost, one of the most simple things a hiker can do to help take pressure off the feet, to take pressure off the Achilles, is purely just reducing your hiking pace. This is the simplest thing you can do, and it can make a big, big difference. Because realistically, if we pull back our speed, it can take pressure out of these areas. It can take force out of these areas and help them feel a little bit more comfortable. Now, for hikers, this typically falls into flat sections of the trail, because typically on ascents, we're pretty slow on that already. We're self-regulated around actually going up. Descents, we're relatively slow on that as well. Well, most people are, because we're making sure we don't fall over, we're being careful. Typically, this pace ends up coming on the flat sections. Because one tendency for a lot of hikers, and I do this myself, is we've done the hill, we've gone up, we've gone downhill, we're like, oh my gosh, I'm glad that's over, glad that's done. We hit a nice flat section, and then we just start power walking along. We're like, yeah, I'm gonna make up some time here, I'm gonna cruise along, this is so easy, I'm having a good time, and we don't really think about it. Now, normal situation, this isn't a big deal, but if you do have a history of Achilles or foot pain, this is something you want to pay attention to. So just pull back your speed a little bit, intentionally get a little bit slower, and it can go a long, long way. Number two, another thing you can kind of do is if you are aware that this often does flare up, and this is an issue that you have, and also you're in this situation where you're training for a particular hike, and more often than not, and probably usually if you're training for an end day, you have to be carrying a certain amount of weight in your pack. Whether you're training up for a full pack, a day pack, or anything in between, more than likely on your training hikes, you've got a little bit of weight in your pack. One really great tip for any hiker, regardless if you get aches or pains, is do what we call the water bottle trick. In the sense of when you are loading up your backpack for your training hikes, make sure at least 50% of your pack weight is made up in water bottles. And at any stage, if you do feel like this is creeping up, if that starts happening 3/4 through the hike or whatever it may be, that is the point where you basically dump all the water out, except for your drinking water, obviously, and continue on. So this can be a good thing because you can get that training effect of a heavier pack for as long as you need, but once that pain comes on, then you can take pressure off. And that may be enough just to help the foot and the Achilles be like, hey, I'm pretty happy, and away we go. This is really valuable. Now, obviously you can't actually do that on your normal adventures. Like if you're actually out on the trail, you're doing overnighters, you've got a pack on your back, all of that stuff you probably need, but on your training hikes it can be very useful. On top of that, trekking poles, absolutely amazing for any foot issues or Achilles issues. Basically takes a bit of pressure off the feet, helps you be a little bit more supported, definitely worthwhile investing in. And then also on top of that, releases and stretches. This can sometimes be useful when you're on the trail, in the sense that when we are actually out on the trail and something starts to get a little bit sore, sometimes what you can do is if you do a little bit of self-massage or a little bit of stretching above and below the particular issue, so not so much on the issue itself, but above and below on the muscles there, that can sometimes give us a little bit of relief. So for example, if we're looking at the Achilles, you may sort of look at, I'll show you some examples here, you may potentially look at doing a calf release. Let's pull this up. And basically in this particular example, we're just going to use our water bottle because obviously you're not going to have a foam roller or anything on the trail. But this particular example, you have a water bottle, you sit on the trail, sit on like a bit of grass or something, and literally just roll up and down on your calves. And this can be a nice release that you can do on your calves on the trail or at home if you have a foam roller at home. But this can work out pretty well. Same thing for the feet. Like where am I? So yeah, it's like, if you're releasing the calves, that's above the feet. That can sometimes give a bit of relief. And the same thing with the Achilles. It can sometimes help with the Achilles. If you're getting foot pain, then you can sort of think about, okay, where exactly in the foot am I sore? Is it my heel? Is it my forefoot? And then you could either get a water bottle, you could get your thumbs, you could get a little cork massage ball if you keep them in your pack, and you can do a little massage, again, above or below the area. So not so much poking at the sore spot and like going, hey, do this, because that can sometimes make things a little bit uncomfortable, but basically just doing it in a way where above or below. Now for the foot release, you may not really want to do that on the trail while you're going, because obviously you're going to get your boot off and it can be a bit of pain or whatever it may be. But this can be good if you're doing it in camp. This can be good once you get to your car. This can be good to do when you get home or whatever it may be. So just having to think about releases and stretches above and below the particular issue, sometimes that can kind of get us through. So if you are in this situation where you are getting Achilles foot pain towards the end of your training hikes, just know prevention is always going to be the most important thing, and you do want to be making sure you are ticking off these boxes, you're paying attention to load management, you're definitely working on strengthening, and if you haven't got a diagnosis, go and see a physio or podiatrist. But if it is still, you're going through all of that and you're still trying to manage it and it is creeping up, hopefully that can make a bit of a difference. Pull back your speed, use that water bottle trick where you can, trekking poles for sure, and use releases and stretches as well. Put that together. It may not completely fix the issue, but it may help you get through a little bit more comfortably and get through it kind of okay.